From knocking out the heavyweight legend Stipe Miocic to fending off a striker as agile as Cyril Gane, Francis Ngannou showed the world why he was the baddest man on the planet, and that's why Aljamain Sterling still calls him the real champ even after the GOAT, Jon Jones, made him submit at UFC 285. But come on guys, let's face it, Gane lost to an injured Ngannou last year, so when the match was made by the UFC, fans did question if the Frenchman was the right man for the job. The bantamweight king thinks that since Ngannou never lost the belt, he's still the champion of the heavyweights. He uses the same logic that Bones did when he was disqualified, and the title was passed on to Daniel Cormier. I mean, that does kinda make sense, cause John called DC a placeholder for himself, but I doubt that the newly crowned champ will see it that way. Alio didn't mean any disrespect though. Like most of you, he'd like to see these dudes fight each other out, just to establish who is actually the true king. Sterling doesn't want another Fedor Emelianenko situation, where he never got around to fighting Brock Lesnar, and the MMA world missed out on two of the scariest guys on earth going at each other. Ngannou and Jones are both pretty young right now. Well, for the heavyweight division anyway. They are in their prime right now, and they can compete to their full potential. This will definitely settle the debate between both groups of fans. But do they even want to fight? And will the UFC still make it happen? Alio believes that Dana can still move things around if he really wants to, and he'll only do it if there's enough demand. The UFC boss shut down any possibility of the fight happening in the post-match press conference. To be fair, he tried to get both Ngannou and Jones in the octagon together, and he did get Johnny Bones back, but the Predator was just another beast to handle, and the contract negotiations didn't go as they had hoped. Alio kinda put Dana on the spot during his interview by saying that if the UFC truly cares about its fans, then they're going to make this fight happen. If they don't, then the fans are really going to be upset, because this is something that everyone wants to see. But see, Dana really did try. I mean, he offered Francis $8 million for the fight, and that's not even including the pay-per-view buys and bonuses.
This is for the official heavyweight title. You know, we've been working on a new agreement with Francis for he was going to fight Jon Jones and many who believe, including me. And Jon Jones has been willing and ready and able to fight anybody. He didn't care who it was. And Francis, we offered Francis a deal that would have made him the highest paid heavyweight in the history of the company.
The African powerhouse could have really made some serious cash during the fight, but he chose to walk away from the promotion altogether. The Predator thought if he put pen to paper, he would be handing all the power to UFC. He revealed that the promotion misused that power against him in the past, and Ngannou didn't want to repeat that mistake. The Cameroonian also previously revealed that he was willing to take a 3-fight contract with UFC. After this, he wanted to move into the world of boxing, but the promotion probably wanted to tie him down a little longer. You really can't blame the guy for doing what he wants. I mean, in the past, the UFC has allowed McGregor to run free and wild. Why couldn't they let their most dominant heavyweight do the same? He was even willing to make compromises on what he was initially asking, but the UFC wasn't being flexible at all. In the end, Francis decided to put his foot down. He wanted to box, and he asked the promotion to at least consider it, which they weren't willing to do at all. And why would they be? After all, they promote MMA fights, not boxing matches. But maybe they could have considered giving their champion some freedom. They did say that they might let him box, but only in good faith. And Ngannou wasn't going to be sold on the idea of a maybe. The Predator also wanted health insurance, but not just for himself, he wanted it for all of the fighters. Can you believe what a stand-up guy this champion is? Putting himself on the line like that? He was looking out for the fighters below him in the UFC. For Ngannou, health insurance isn't a problem. He can afford it, but the guys at the bottom can't. And he's talking from experience because he's been there, and he knows how difficult it is for the lesser-known athletes to make ends meet. As you can expect, the UFC didn't agree to these demands, and after the negotiations died down, Dana tried throwing Francis under the bus. Well, that didn't surprise anyone. The UFC head honcho is known for his pettiness over things he can't control, but he told the media that the Predator was over 300 pounds when he was confirming the main card of UFC 285. But instead of talking about it, Dana decided to go after his former champion. He told the reporters that Ngannou was overweight and afraid to fight.
I think Francis is in a place right now where he doesn't want to take a lot of risk, where he could fight lesser opponents and make more money. So give up our right to match, and he can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants. We've been negotiating with him for 2 years, and there were a lot of different, even now.
You all remember he's talking about a guy who defeated Gon last year with a seriously injured knee. The same guy who, after losing to Miocic, tore through the whole of the heavyweight division to get his revenge, and he knocked Stipe out in the second round. But for some reason, Dana thought that Francis would be afraid to fight Jones when he was completely fit, especially after he had been away from the octagon for so many years.
Weighing over 300 pounds, just had knee surgery, hasn't really had a real training camp. As far as Francis is concerned too, he doesn't know what's going to happen with his knee. I don't even think he would have been ready for March. So, we can't continue to hold up the division, but he's got it in his head that there's bigger opportunities outside the UFC.
I get that Dana had to sell Gon somehow, but he could have done that without doing his former champ like that, and the way he tried promoting Cyril was just hilarious. Guys, the UFC boss said that in Jones versus Gon, the Frenchman was favorite, and that it was a much bigger fight than Ngannou. I mean, give me a break. Sure, he might move like a middleweight, and he is a good kickboxer, but come on, it's John Jones on the other side. How could Gon be the favorite ever? It really showed on the night how good Cyril was. 2 minutes into the round, and he taps out. There wasn't even anything to talk about in the fight either. I saw more action between that athletic commission guy and the tape on Jones's foot than in the actual fight. It was just embarrassing to watch. I'm sure it was embarrassing to Gon as well. Maybe he should have taken Khabib's advice, who wasn't all that impressed with his grappling game last year. I mean, Bon Gammon lost a wrestling match to the Predator, and if I'm being honest, Francis isn't known for his ground game. Spending some time in the mountains of Dagestan and grappling those bears like the lightweight legend used to do might have helped Cyril out. Instead, he ignored Nurmagomedov's advice and thought that he could bring down Johnny Boy without any grappling. Jones rightly identified what he had to do to win, and he executed it perfectly, proving to the world why he is the true GOAT of the sport. But that didn't stop Ngannou from taking a dig at him though. After the match, the Cameroonian tweeted praise for Jones on a job well done, but he signed the post with, "Sincerely, the heavyweight king." John didn't take very kindly to that comment and responded to the Predator by calling him a for running away from the fight. I don't think Ngannou ran from the fight, but it's pretty clear that he doesn't want to give up the moniker of the baddest man on the planet. So why not just settle this out inside the octagon? Just like Alyo, fans like you and I would love to see this fight, and it doesn't look like the boxing thing is working out for Francis either. So maybe returning to the UFC isn't such a bad idea after all, and Sterling still thinks he's the heavyweight champion anyway.